welcome to Ukulele Corner. Now, the ukulele has a great relative, another four-string instrument that you find in Brazil. It's called the Cavaquinho. And the Portuguese brought the ukulele to Hawaii back in the 1800s. They traveled even much earlier than that. They went to South America and settled in Brazil. They brought some wonderful instruments. The same instruments like the machete and the braguinha were brought there, these four-string instruments. And they evolved into these very similar type of instrument to the ukulele, but they use a steel string. They have this really bright, beautiful sound. Now what I was just playing there is just a little bit of the samba or Brazilian style of playing, also known as the Bossa Nova rhythm. And I wanted to show you a couple of chord shapes and some right hand patterns that are really fun to play. If you've played fingerstyle ukulele before, this sort of playing really helps you to do what I call block chords. You're playing these groups of 4 notes, or you're playing with your thumb and then playing index, middle, and ring, groups of 3 notes. And I want to just show you a basic rhythm that's used a lot in Bossa Nova and samba music, and then we'll look at some chord voicings that are played. So let's say if I was playing there in the key of F, and let's take just a basic F chord. Now what I want you to do is play for counting 1, 2, 3. For the basic rhythm is 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, 4. It's a 2-measure phrase. So I'm playing on beat 1, beat 2, then the end of 3, end of 4, end of 1 in the next measure, end of 2, and then back to beat 3 and 4 on the downbeat. So it's down, down, up, down, down. And I'm just doing a basic block chord. We're going to do some other things to break away from this. And you can put in other little notes here and there. But this is the core idea. It really gets you counting, right? 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, 4. Sometimes if it's hard to play right away, you can clap it out. So it would be 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, 4. I'm really subdividing. I'm counting those eighth notes. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, 4. Now, have you ever heard The Girl from Ipanema? Right, that's a hit. Then you go to a G7, a G minor 7, C7. We can use cooler chord voicings, but for now I'm just playing basic shapes. Sometimes there's an F sharp chord that happens there, or F sharp 7. F, G7. Try taking off your third finger, it's called G9. G minor 7, 0, 2, 1, 1, to C7, back to F. It's a little passing chord that can be played. Now, when you play the F chord there in G7, you can do, they're both 2 measures each, so you can do the entire pattern. One tricky part about this is sometimes you're going to switch chords. This G minor 7 is going to go to a C7. Each one's getting 1 measure. You switch, what's really fun about this, to the C7 chord on the end of 4. Let me show you really slowly. So go 1, 2, 3, and 4, switch. So you anticipate the downbeat with that C chord. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, 4. Back to F. Same thing if I did this little passing chord, which is, you could think of it as C7, but it's got a sharp 5. It is 3, 4, 4, 3. Often a bass player will actually play the note F sharp against this, so you can actually call it, it's a fancy version of F sharp chord. But see, just think of it as like a type of C7 chord in your mind too. It's like the 5 chord, but it's got this cool note in here, this G sharp. So if I do the whole pattern, you get that Bossa Nova feel right away, right? switch here. Go to F. Notice how, like I've mentioned playing jazz before, where sometimes chords are not ringing out as long as possible. You can make it real punchy and short. A couple ways that you can get that to happen is just simply put your fingers back on the strings. You stop the sound. Instead of the pattern being, it actually sounds good to do that. You can do that, but it's really effective and it gives it that kind of samba groove to stop the chords. You can do that with your right hand. Sometimes I do it with my left hand. Like if I play an F chord, I might use my pinky to actually, a little bit more work, but it's a technique that I just sort of intuitively do sometimes to stop open strings. It's easy if you're doing all the fingers are down on a chord, you simply just release the pressure and the sound will stop. Now, last thing I'll say about getting introduced to this style of playing is then you can start to separate the thumb from the fingers. And I've been to Brazil. I did a great ukulele outreach program there years ago with Keola Beamer and Moanalani Beamer, a hula dancer. And Keola Beamer is one of the finest composers and slack key guitarists from Hawaii. The Beamer Ohana goes back many generations. They're really important in the world of Hawaiian music and culture. But we were able to do, through the United States State Department, we did a bunch of cultural tours and exchange programs, and we went all over Brazil for a month. I had so much fun. We got to play with all these great musicians in different regions of the country. And this samba rhythm and the Bossa Nova, it's just one of many, many forms. There are all these great rhythmic forms. There's a form called the batucada, machixe. There are all these different ways of interpreting rhythm. And there's a rhythm called the baião and the frevo. And it was really fun to study the differences between the different styles. But this particular samba or bossa nova groove is really common. And there's a big drum. It's called the sordu. And you find it we got to collaborate with a group called Olodum from Salvador, Brazil. It's the heart of the Afro-Brazilian culture and where a lot of this music came from, mixed in with a Portuguese influence. But the drumming, there's this big bass drum that they put flat in the ground and you basically hit it on 1 and 3. So if we add that little bit of groove with our thumb into 1 and 3, aha, there's a sordu drum. A whole nother element. Instead of just doing, you add that in, and if you really carefully count it, you can go bass, chord, chord, bass, chord, chord, bass, chord. It's actually not hard to do. So you go thumb on 1, then fingers on 2, thumb on 3, fingers on the end of 3, and wait till the end of 4. Then thumb on 1 in the next measure, fingers on the end of 1, then fingers on the end of 2, bass on beat 3, and then chord on beat 4. I know that's a mouthful, right? So I'll play it really slowly and count it out. It goes 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, 4. You speed it up a little bit, you start putting a little bit of that shortness into the notes. Now typically the bass notes are actually held, but I like to leave them, somewhere in between. I stop them a little bit short. What you can simply do is put your thumb back on the note and you get more of a muted sound. Once again, sometimes I might use my left hand. So basically the bossa nova rhythm and samba are very similar, just samba is typically faster. If I play that really fast, then we're doing a samba. Here are the syncopations, and I'm letting go of chords. I'm changing up the rhythm a little bit, but basically that thumb is still doing the same role. I might place notes for the chord in other places. Maybe I'm playing all eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and dum, dum, that sort of thing. You can change up your chord shapes. Then each song, of course, is going to have a certain chord cycle that it goes through. Go into strumming too, right? You can get a really cool, the Cavaquinho sometimes is strummed. Back to fingers. So you can use other techniques that are common on the ukulele, and it's really fun to play this style of music. Working on all these block chords, it really helps your right hand feel comfortable playing fingerstyle. And I think just going back to that very simple first exercise, make sure you spend a lot of time with that rhythm until it becomes internalized and you feel really comfortable. Notice how my thumb is extended out in front of the fingers. It's not back here. That's really going to help you get that independence between the thumb and the fingers. All right, so I hope you have fun playing some Brazilian style music on the ukulele, and leave some comments below. Let me know what your favorite Brazilian musicians, who they are, and what style you like to play. And I'll see you again soon. Mahalo.